All right. Hello there, everyone. This is Lisa Duke with Lisa Duke Financial Coaching, and this is the Changing Your Financial Operating System webinar. You may see me kind of look back off camera here. That's where all my notes are, so don't let that freak you out. But with that being said, we'll go ahead, dive in, and get started because I know your time is valuable. So first off, congratulations about taking the time to learn more about your finances. My goal really is to make this the webinar that I was looking for when I was first trying to get started and trying to figure out money, trying to learn just how it all works, how the rich get richer and how to get in on all that action. So that's what we'll be talking a little bit about today. So during this webinar, we're going to talk specifically about how I changed my financial operating system, some of my clients that are in the process of doing the same thing, and some ideas to help you do that as well. And why do I say financial operating system? So I come from an IT background, and if you think about computers, right? Maybe you've got a Mac, maybe you've got a Windows machine, but there's a certain operating system in there that's the framework for how that machine is going to operate. And a lot of us are running software from at least a previous generation, if not two generations ago. Maybe it's middle class software and we're trying to upgrade to wealthy people software, but we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. So it's the very same thing. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in those same patterns and habits that have been handed down to you without you really understanding or putting much thought into what those are. So we're going to talk about the secret software in your brain that's keeping you stuck with your money without you even knowing it. And if you're the kind of person who thinks, oh, I probably don't have enough money to get any help with my money, you're in the exact right place. This is for you. There's also a special surprise, so do make sure you stay to the end. I've got something else that might be helpful to you for your specific situation, so hang around for that. So for the next hour-ish, I'm going to give you really the download on how to make a real difference in your financial life, but it is going to require your two most valuable assets, your time and your attention. A lot of y'all have been giving these away for free to companies that monetize them. So put your phone on vibrate or turn the ringer off or turn it all the way off. We want to use those assets for your benefit so that you can get rich instead of just making Mark Zuckerberg richer. He's doing okay. He doesn't need you. So turn off the cell phone, hide from your family in the bathroom if you have to, whatever you need to do to be able to concentrate, because this is going to be good. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about me. I started out probably about where you are now. I was a normal sort of college educated, middle class, maybe upper middle class, depending upon who I'm comparing myself to, but college educated professional. And so I had all the debt to go with that, the credit card debt, the mortgage loan, the car loans, all the regular stuff. But I was always really curious about money. I think it comes from the town where I grew up, where there were just a handful of well-off people and a lot of people that did not have enough. And I was always really curious on, how does this happen? You know, how do we get into this situation? How do people change where they are? Why do some people have more than enough? And why are some people completely broke? And I've learned that it does have to do with this financial operating system that I've been telling you guys about. Most of us have sort of the OS we were loaded with when we first came into the world, those first years of childhood, and we've never re-examined it. So, you know, I was probably born to be an employee, maybe a manager if I had played my cards right, done what I was supposed to do. And that was supposed to be the path that I took to make money. And I do have friends that have taken that path. It does still work for some people, for a lot of people. But there's definitely a cap on what you can do with that. I was always really interested in learning about business and investing, but I was trained that those things were really risky. They were for different people other than me, and it was just way too dangerous to mess with that. It was too confusing. So I just needed to keep my head down, work hard, be a good employee, and I would get a pension and be okay. After all, that's what's worked for my parents. They did very well with that model. The problem is that the world has changed. Actually, the year, I'm going to tell y'all exactly how old I am. 1974, the year I was born, is when ERISA came into law. And that basically shifted the responsibility for retirement in the US from your employer to the employee. So instead of getting a pension and a guaranteed benefit, the company decided to kick in money to you as you go, and then it's on you to figure out how to invest it. So times have changed, and that financial knowledge is way more important than it ever used to be for past generations. Unfortunately, we didn't get the training to go with that change in society, and so a lot of us are operating off basically, I'd say Windows 95, but in the financial OS world, maybe Finance 1955, Finance 1965, and we need to upgrade to the latest version if we are going to get where we want to get in life. And here's the other piece of this too, that middle class way of life, unfortunately, is disappearing. Now, how we address that is maybe a policy issue. That's a separate conversation, a separate webinar. But the fact of the matter is there's becoming less middle class and more of a divide between the rich and the poor. So the decisions you make now are going to determine which side of the divide you live on and which side of the divide you train your next generation and they train their next generation to live on. So the choices you make now about what you learn and don't learn, what you focus on and you don't focus on, literally can make a difference in the standard of living for your grandkids, because things are going to get passed down to them just like things have been passed down to you. So it's more important than it ever has been to make sure you're on the right side and you have the right mindset. So for me personally, back to a little bit about me, I've spent the last 20 years really trying to learn the secret of how money works. And that journey really led me from being a regular employee in a cubicle through a little foray into network marketing, which is another story, and then into entrepreneurship, and from there into becoming a self-made millionaire. And I don't say that to brag. It's still a little uncomfortable for me to say because I was raised to be very discreet with any money that we might have. But I think it's important because you need to know that this is coming from my personal experience. I definitely had some advantages, some privileges. I didn't come into this, on the very bottom level, but I have not had any money given to me. Everything we have financially has been a byproduct of our education and our learning and the mentoring we got and the choices that we made. So I think that's important to know. And that whole time through the last 20 years, I was really taking classes, reading books, doing courses, trying to figure out personal finance and trying to find the right person to mentor me and guide me along the way. So once I finally found the solution, we went from being almost $200,000 in debt, if you include our mortgage, to being self-made millionaires in less than 10 years. So it really, truly is a mindset shift. And once you know what to do, it's a tough transition. But once you get things set up, it just goes on autopilot. It just grows and grows and grows on its own. But it's that mindset shift that is the whole difficult piece of the journey. And I will say the old version of me coming out of college did not know that the life we have now is possible. I work from home. I set my own hours. I say we're semi-retired. We both work, but we're working because we choose to, because we want to have a nicer lifestyle than we would have living off of our investments, and because both of us really enjoy what we do for a living. So it's working by choice to improve our lives and to make a contribution rather than working out of desperation just to try to get that next paycheck to survive. I used to also be very anxious and stressed with money. And it's not just the money itself, although that helps, but the way my mindset has changed. I'm much more calm, relaxed, centered, and comfortable with my money than I ever used to be. And I know if, heaven forbid, everything we had were to be taken away, I could rebuild again much faster than I have because of that mindset that I have cultivated. So it's a big difference. We used to live in Metro Atlanta, which we love. It still feels like home. But any of you that have passed through or lived in Atlanta, the traffic is a nightmare. So it's an hour there to work. You sit in a cubicle for 8 to 10 hours, and then it's an hour back. You're like a mole, right? You leave home in the dark. You get home in the dark. You never even see what the front of your house looks like. It's not a really great lifestyle. It's very high stress. And we have recently located, we're now near the waterfront in South Florida. So we have endless summer. It's always in the 70s and 80s here. It's fantastic. It's what we really love. And again, like I said, it's more about doing what we love and being able to help others and to be of service, and then to take some of the proceeds from that service and help charities and causes and things that are important to us. And that's really where our focus is now. So my goal personally is to do for other people what our millionaire mentor did for us, and really reach back out and help people figure this out so they can get a handle on their finances. So I want to ask you, what would you do if you got to a point where you didn't stress about money anymore? You didn't have to worry about it. Maybe you would travel more, take a dream vacation with your family, or maybe you'd leave them behind and that's what would make it a dream vacation, whatever. I'm not judging. Maybe you'd go someplace where it's warm all year, like we've chosen to do, or maybe you love the snow. My friend Tanya, actually, she and her husband Mark talk about endless winter. They love to ski. So one of their dreams when they were becoming financially independent was to be able to follow the ski season and just, it's winter somewhere in the world at all times. So to be able to follow that. Another person, my friend Michael, moved his family down to an expat community in Central America because his dream was for his kids to grow up bilingual. So they're going to speak Spanish without much of any accent at all because they're learning it while they're young. And that's going to be a gift. It's going to be a skill that's going to go with them for the rest of their lives. And he's able to do that because he's financially independent and he doesn't have to worry about where the next dollar is coming from. So I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's a charity. Maybe it's just kind of letting the money grow and enjoying the peace of mind and the little safety net that brings to you. But either way, whatever you would want to do, my challenge to you is to start figuring out how you're going to get on that path. It truly is available to everyone. That's one thing that I've seen. Those of y'all that know me know my husband is from the UK. He's English. And it's so cool to see that sort of American immigrant dream through that lens of somebody that, people around the world really believe our propaganda. So he's come here and he's been very successful, just I think because he didn't know any better. He didn't buy into some of the stories that we tell ourselves about what's possible. And so those of you that were born here and kind of take it for granted, maybe you're surrounded by a lot of negative thinking, definitely remind yourself of what is possible because it's available to us as well. So that's enough about me. Well, maybe a little bit more about me. 2 things that were standing in my way that might be standing in your way as well. Number 1, resistance, because I was just very confused. I was never good at math. And I believed financial literacy was somehow different than the regular kind of literacy. I understood that I had been capable of learning to read, but I did not think I was capable of learning to understand finance. And it's a human crafted system, just like the English language. Anyone can learn it. It does not require any higher math, addition, subtraction, maybe a little Excel formula here and there if you want to get fancy, but there's not any difficult math that's required. Good news. I thought that money was really confusing, really hard to learn, that I was way too busy to learn it. I didn't want to be coachable. Even once I did find a mentor, I had a tendency to wander off, do my own thing, make some mistakes, and to try to do it cheaper. I tried to save money by going with the affordable solutions, the book, the course, training with people who actually were not themselves millionaires and were giving well-intentioned advice, but had not done it for themselves yet. And the thing about it is nobody can teach you something that they don't know. And somebody that knows it in theory might be able to help you along the way, but it's very different learning from somebody that has actually learned it, lived it, experienced it, and taught it. So that resistance to learning from somebody like that messed me up a little bit. I also kind of thought I knew everything. Even after we connected with a mentor, like I said, I had a tendency to wander off on my own instead of asking for advice. They say you don't know what you don't know. And this was definitely the case for me. I had no idea how much we still had left to learn. But despite the fact that I had a tendency to wander and be a little bit resistant, I did keep coming back. I kept picking myself up after the failures, the mistakes, and starting over again, getting the hang of it. So you do not have to get this right the first time or even the fifth or the sixth, the seventh time. It's just kind of keeping towards that goal, and learning that skill will get you where you want to go. One of my clients actually had the same issue. She's interesting because she had a lot of financial avoidance behavior. So when we initially talked about, this is one of the homework assignments that I recommend my students carry out, is after we get through some of the mindset work, take a look back at where your money did go and see how you feel about that now that you've kind of looking at it from a different angle. And the first time around, I'm pretty sure she just didn't do it. Didn't want to look at it, didn't want to know. But when we got to the lesson on making her plan to become financially independent, she realized, oh, there's no way I can calculate how much I need to be financially independent until I know how much I'm spending in a month. And so she kind of backed up with that perspective and was able to go back, complete the task. And now she has a much better understanding of where her money is going. So that's kind of a little bit about resistance. So second big issue that held me back, and then I've seen with other people, is this concept of loss aversion. And this is kind of a finance term for just, being afraid to lose stuff, which is understandable, right? All of us have some of that, and some of it is helpful and wise. But I was so caught up in my sort of broke/middle class way of thinking that all I could concentrate on when we connected with our mentor and heard how much the initial investment was going to be was how much money it was. And I was so freaked out that, maybe this was going to be another mistake. I had tried the business opportunities. I'd tried the courses. I'd tried the, workbook and CDs and all of that kind of stuff. But I just was really afraid to lose that money again. And here's something that's really interesting. One of the weird things about how your brain works is the more of an emotional charge an incident has, the more vivid your memory of it is. That's why those of y'all that are old enough to remember 9/11, you can kind of close your eyes and go back in your mind to exactly where you were when you heard about what happened on 9/11. And that moment of him telling us what it would cost for us to work with him was so such a visceral emotional experience that I can literally see it in my mind. We were in the Bucket Shop restaurant, which is kind of across the parking lot from Lenox Mall, for those of you guys that know Atlanta. It's kind of one of the shishi areas of Atlanta. And when he told us how much it would cost to work with him, I was just like I said, to the point where I can see the table. He was sitting here. My husband was sitting next to me. We had the other partners in the IT consulting business there with me. It's so vivid. I can remember that it was an overcast day. I can see the weather in that parking lot across the street from us. So that's how emotional it was and how fearful I was about that $5,000. What a huge investment that was for us. But even though I was terrified because I didn't really understand the difference between saving and investing, I was like, well, I've got to figure this out, right? It's probably not just going to come to me in a dream. So I've got to take a chance and try something to make a change in my life. So we'd done these other classes and these opportunities that didn't work. I didn't want to do it again, but I just had to. So, and I subsequently have learned through working with him and the studying that I've done that acting out of a fear of loss is a big part of what keeps broke people broke. And I'll give you guys a perfect example of this. So my first sort of limited introduction to investing was when I got my first real grown-up job after college, and that was 97. So before the tech wreck, before the Great Recession, all of that. And I'm going to share my screen out and show you guys sort of where the market, at least one indicator of the market was, so that you can see how things work in the long run. So hang on just a second. I will share this out. All right, let me flip over to this. So I've already told y'all how old I am, so this is no big secret, but it's about April of 97 when I got my first job. I participated in the retirement plan and I started putting money in it. And you see, if I had bought, one share of this index that tracks the S&P 500, which is just a collection of 500 American companies, one share of this specific index would have been, or the index itself was at 737.65. So if I'd bought one share of something that exactly tracks this index, that's what it would have cost me. And you see it went way up. It was really exciting because I was in IT and right place, right time. We're seeing all these companies do great, and you can see it pretty much doubled between when I started adulting and the peak of the tech bubble. And then, oh my God, it crashes back down, right? Because this is what the market does. It's kind of like boiling a pot of water on the stove. It's like, whoa, too hot, it's boiling over. Whoop, too cold, it's not doing anything. That's how the market finds the appropriate level, is like too hot, too cold, right? It's like Goldilocks. Too hot, too cold, too hot, too cold, too hot, too cold. And that's kind of how it finds where it's supposed to be. But even after the so-called tech wreck, you see, it didn't go below where it was when I first started investing. So that one share was still worth more after the tech wreck than it was when I first got in the market. So then things continue on, right? And you get, this is sort of the peak of the housing bubble, 2006, 2007. And then Wall Street starts to realize, ooh, something's gone terribly wrong. And we have a big wreck. But again, it doesn't wreck all the way down to where it was in 97. It comes right back up. And why am I making a point of this? Because what tends to happen is people watch this big up curve and they get more and more excited. And that's when they want to jump in, is when it's on the uphill. And then it starts to crash and people freak out. And they're like, oh my God, I've just got to get my money out. I can't lose anymore. And they all bail out, right? And then it bottoms up, but it comes back up. And that's because what you're investing in is the American economy. So if you're so pessimistic that you think American headquartered companies are all going to fail, then yeah, this is probably not for you. But if you're like, even if the American economy tanks, these companies are global, we'll be fine, then it's going to come back up. And if you're investing for retirement, you don't need this money until you retire. So there's no reason to panic and to bail out. And if you look, we've gone on this long uphill trend. So what does that tell you? At some point in the future, nobody knows exactly when, it's going to dip back down again. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to freak out. We are in it really for the long haul. So the point of this is, don't let your fear of loss take you off course. You have to be able to stay the course and stick with what you've invested in long enough to get it back out. If you panic and sell at the bottom, you're just locking in your loss. So let me kind of flip you guys back so that I am full screen, stop share. There we go. All right, so fear of loss keeps you broke. Be cautious, but don't be overly fearful. So when I signed up to work with my mentor, I didn't really know for sure that working with that person was going to be what I needed. that I'd be able to do what needed to be done, but something had to change. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. I just wanted to figure it out. How do I get rich? How do I do this money thing? I still don't really love the idea of putting my money at risk, but I now understand that a little bit of risk is what's involved in investing. And I also understand the difference between spending and investing. I kind of referenced that earlier, but if I go to Target and they have those pillows with the multicolored sequins on them, and I buy some pillows, like they're cool, they might look good, but I'm never going to get that money back. If I invest in, this is the idea behind college. Again, we can argue as to whether or not the paradigm still works because college has gotten so expensive, student loan debt. But the original idea behind college was if you went to university, you invested in your education, you would get a better job, and you would get that return on that investment over time. It's an investment in yourself versus the pillows at Target, which are super cute and maybe every now and again, not a bad idea. But you're never going to make money because you bought pillows at Target. I mean, if you come up with a scenario, let me know. But I can't. Nothing springs to mind. So that's one thing, is the understanding the difference between spending and investing, and that investing in yourself and your ability to earn more money and to be a good steward of the money you have is investing, just like investing in the stock market, investing in a business, investing in real estate. It's another form of investing. So the other piece of this is, I meant to turn that off. The other piece of this is sitting with discomfort. And this is something that I've learned really since I started focusing on coaching, but it 100% ties in with investing and sort of stepping out of your comfort zone and living a bigger life. And that is this ability to sit with discomfort. I think that's one of the ways that people become wealthy and that the rich become richer. So, that $5,000 investment that my mentor asked us to make back in, this was probably 2005, 2006, that absolutely terrified me. Being able to sit with that discomfort and say, this makes me very uncomfortable, and I'm going to take a chance on myself, on the investor, the mentor and the program, and give it a go. It's the same ability that allows you, when the market inevitably has a downturn, to sort of sit with the discomfort of, oh, good Lord, it was worth $100,000 yesterday. Now my retirement plan is only worth $80,000. Tomorrow it might only be worth $60,000. Get out, sell. No, that ability to sit with the discomfort, sort of process that emotion, going beyond your comfort zone. These are all things, all skills that you need to build to become wealthy and to become more successful. And I still get challenged to go beyond my comfort zone. What was unimaginable, and terrifying to me in 2005, now I'm at a level where I just invested $25,000 to work with a marketing coach. And it was the same thing that will probably be burned in my mind forever. When I asked how much it was to work with her, and she said $25,000, I was like, oh dear Lord. But it's the same thing. It's right. Like, you've said to the universe, this is what you want. It's been delivered to you on a platter. Now it's time to step up, say yes to it, even though you've got that discomfort. So even for me, right, when you step up to a new level, the challenge gets bigger, the dare from the universe. Okay, this is what you said, what you want, I dare you to take me up on it. It gets bigger. And, that $25,000, this also tells you a little bit about how our financial picture has shifted, because $5,000 15 years ago was just as terrifying as $25,000 is now. But just as I know current me understands that if past me had not made that $5,000 investment, I wouldn't be a self-made millionaire now. Current me is trusting that future me will say, oh my God, if you had not made that $25,000 investment, you would not be, where I will be at whatever that future place is. So I always talk about that with my clients, that sort of time traveling of what is future you going to thank you for having done today. It's something important to think about. So sometimes the loss aversion we have, what we're afraid of and what we're risking, is not financial. It's not a money thing. Sometimes it's the fear of sort of giving up the life we know now, fear of losing time in order to try to get something better. You have to kind of let go of what you have to try to step up to the next level. So another client of mine is a hairstylist. She has a salon, and she had some former coworkers talk to her about coming into the salon, but she wasn't really sure she wanted the extra people in the salon, their clients. She was already a busy mom. She had a lot going on already. She didn't really know that she wanted the headache. But here's something really interesting that happened when we went through her spending. I will say, typically what happens, we do some mindset work. We take a look at where people are spending their money now. And usually they say, wow, in light of some of the ahas, some of the shifts that I've had, and this awareness of where my money is going, I would like to choose to make some changes to my spending. That's very normal. That's what usually happens. That's why I have people do the exercise. She was funny because she's like, you know what? I've looked at my spending. I'm totally happy with it. I don't think any of this is excessive. I don't think I'm out of control in any way. I think it's totally appropriate. I just need to make more money. Like, that's the real problem. I was like, all right, not what I was expecting, but I love it. Let's go for it. And so she started talking about the people that had contacted her. They have 2 additional sort of stations, 2 chairs in their salon that they could rent out for $450 a month each. So that's $900 a month more she could have had coming into the business, but she just was thinking about it in a different way. She almost didn't see the opportunity because she wasn't open to it. So just by changing her perspective, changing her thinking, she could see how that extra money coming into the business was going to flow through, at least a percentage of it would flow through to her personal budget and would allow her to do some of the things that were important to her without sacrificing the current level of spending, which she was totally comfortable with. So you never really know what it is. You've got kind of these lenses over you right now, and you don't know what it is that you're not seeing that's right in front of you until you start questioning some of these beliefs and questioning some of your filters. So she was able to make $900 a month extra in her business without sacrificing any time with her family. It didn't require her to do more cut, do more color, raise her price. She just told 2 of those folks that had contacted her, yeah, come on in, and was able to step up to a new level in the business. So pretty exciting. So now that we've gone through some of the emotional blocks, let's move to more the practical. How do we actually start to change our financial operating system? And I've sort of indirectly referenced some of that, but the biggest thing, tip number 1, gain awareness. It sounds really simple, but it's so critical. We don't, again, we get our financial paradigm, our financial operating system set as kids. And because money is taboo for a lot of us in this country, we don't go back and question it. So we're not even aware of what's sort of running, the apps that are open in the background, all the 57 browser tabs that are taking up all of our space. We're not aware of what's in our subconscious and what's running our financial plan within ourselves. So think about what level of success you were programmed for. What in your childhood set your attitudes and your beliefs about money? So perfect example of this, my client Maddie's father was the breadwinner, and her mom was a stay-at-home mom, primarily kept the kids, but also had some part-time work that she did. And so as Maddie and I started working together and we started exploring what had set her money beliefs, she realized she was acting with her money in a lot of the same ways that her mom had behaved with the mom's money, some of which she liked, some of which she didn't like, but she had not been aware of it. So as soon as she had that awareness, she gained the ability to make different choices. And it's interesting because she was sort of unconsciously using her mom as a role model, but she knew she was actually more ambitious and more career oriented than her mom. So it was not, it was not the perfect template to go off of. She just wasn't even really aware that she was doing it. So one of the things that she told me was that her mother had always said, there's no point making more money because the tax man will take it all. How often have you guys said that? Or maybe you've heard somebody say that. This is kind of in the back of everybody's mind. But here's the thing. In the US, and actually Canada as well, there's this sort of tiered system. So if you think about a wedding cake, right? There's this bottom tier of income that actually is exempt from taxes, right? Your household exemption, your standard deduction. This bottom tier, you're not going to pay any taxes on. As you earn more money, it's like adding another tier on the wedding cake. The government doesn't come back and take money out of the bottom of the wedding cake. As you earn more, they'll take a slice out of that next tier up. But they're not messing with, right? Like they're not coming after your old money. They're just coming after a slice of your new money. Same thing, you get up to the next layer, they're going to take a bigger slice out, but they're not going to mess with the slice that they took out of this layer or the no slice that they took out of that layer. So yes, as you make more money and bump up into a new level, there will be a slightly bigger piece that is taken out of your cake. But if it's 10% here, 15% there, whatever percentage it is, you still get all the rest of the cake, right? So me personally, I'd rather have 3 layers of cake, even if they're taking a little bit more out of that top layer than just the bottom layer, and staying in broke mode to avoid having 10% or 15% of my next tier of my wedding cake taken. That doesn't make any sense at all. And as soon as I kind of explained it that way, she was like, oh, so it's not actually hurting me. It's not taking any money away, any extra money away from the money that I did have. It's just a little bit bigger bite out of the next tier of cake. And I can handle that in order to have, the 95%, the 85% of the money that comes at that layer. It made sense for her. And she was able to remove one of her blocks to earning more money just from that simple level of awareness. So gaining awareness, very important. And, some of your money blocks will be stubborn and will stick around, but a lot of them, as soon as you get that awareness, it's just like, oh, okay, that doesn't bother me anymore. Tip number 2, get an understanding of your current situation. And this is kind of tied in with the awareness piece, but a little bit different angle on it. So my client, Donna, actually did not know until she did an assessment with me that she was pretty financially avoidant. She had a lot of debt. She just got in the habit of never looking at her bank account because it was so depressing. And all of her money was going to paying the debt or just living. And so she didn't want to look at it because it was, kind of sad, kind of depressing, stressed her out. But as she used some of the tools I teach to better understand how her thinking was driving her behavior, she decided to step up, do one of the homework assignments to calculate her net worth. And as part of that, she went in and looked at her main bank account for the first time in a long time. And from that, she realized that she actually had $20,000 sitting in her checking account that she didn't know about because she'd been afraid to look. And that was enough really to fill up her emergency fund, at least get a good start on it, and also to finish paying for an international adoption that she was working on. So instantly, just by sort of taking that step and really confronting what was going on, she realized, oh, my situation is actually a lot better than I thought it was. She knew she had paid off her debt. She thought she'd be working, the next 6 months, a year, 18 months on the emergency fund. But she's like, oh, I'm actually mostly there and I've got extra money to finish out this adoption. So she instantly realized she was ready to go on to the next step of investing more for retirement and kind of fast forward to working on financial independence. So that was really exciting. And she also was able to leap forward in time instead of worrying about the past like she had been when she was paying off the debt, or focusing on sort of current short-term emergency fund. She's now able to look at the future and get ahead of the game. And that planning piece, getting ahead of the game, is again a lot of the way that the rich get richer. Is you start thinking about things in advance. You can't anticipate everything. You don't want to worry about most things. But the more you can project and plan, the fewer bumps there will be in the road as you walk that path to financial independence. And I will say, right, like I'm here kind of claiming some success because of what my clients had done. Let me be totally clear. These women did the work themselves. They were the ones, they showed up for coaching, they made it to their appointments, they did the homework assignments. They went to that place of discomfort and, fear and stress and anxiety and really looked at what was going on. And they were courageous enough to make changes. So they did the work, but all they really needed was a guide. And that's where I was able to come in and help to be a guide to really help them see the way, and also that tiny little bit of peer pressure that we as coaches call accountability. Sometimes it's easier to be accountable to someone else than to ourselves. If you've got a deadline coming up of, I said I would do this before the next coaching call, I really better set aside some time and work on it because I don't want, to break that commitment to somebody else. I want to make sure I get it done. So both the guide piece and the accountability piece, in addition to this sort of self-reflection, awareness, all of those pieces have helped those clients make those shifts and make those changes. So I'm basically here to get you to financial freedom. Whatever tools we can use to do that, I'm all in. So hopefully you enjoyed hearing a little bit more about how I got where I am, some of the shifts that my clients are having, and how they're moving along the path to financial independence. I did not forget that I promised you guys a little free something, a little special bonus. So let me tell you about that. Right up front, let me be honest, my time is fairly limited. We do still run the IT consulting business as a side hustle. And I manage the money, the finances, the investments for us personally and life, right? We're in the midst of house hunting and things like that. So I've got a lot going on, but I do have time in my schedule to take a couple of people on as clients. And so as a way to let you get more information about potentially working with me, I am doing a couple of free appointments. So if you are interested in understanding more about how you were sort of programmed by your childhood, how that's affecting you now, and if you'd like to understand what would be involved in working with me, I do have a few appointments available on my calendar. So I would suggest you definitely get one scheduled now, because once my client roster is filled, then it'll be onto the waiting list until something opens back up. Somebody else kind of completes what they're working on. So just checking my notes. And I will say this too, if you've never had the opportunity in your life to pick the brain of a millionaire entrepreneur, I would suggest you take advantage of that. And I don't say that, again, I don't say that to brag. I don't say that to try to puff myself up. I just know in my 20s, if I had had that opportunity to just be like, tell me how it works, I would have absolutely jumped at that. And that's a big part of why I am where I am today, is seeing that opportunity and taking it. When you feel like it's the right thing to do, you have to trust that and you have to go for it, take advantage of it, because you don't know when you'll get the chance again. So if you would like to hear more about that, see if you might be a fit for one of my programs, Pick My Brain, then go to my website. I'm going to share that with you just so you can take a look. It's really easy. It's lisaduke.net. Here it is. And all you need to do is click on this yellow button, schedule a free consultation. So that will lead you to my Acuity calendar. It's an online calendar. You can kind of see where my schedule and your schedule overlap. Pick a time that works for you. We'll get together. We'll chat one-on-one. I love money stories, so it'll be worthwhile even if that's the only time we get to talk. My focus is on people that think they might want to work together, but even if that's all the time we get, I think it'll be fun for me and useful for you. So let's see, what else was on my list to cover with you guys? I think that's pretty much everything in terms of getting started with changing your financial operating system. So just to kind of recap, right, your financial operating system is like the software in your brain that gets installed while you're a kid that is subconsciously sort of running in the background and causing you to make the choices that have led you where you are today. You can change that. And the things that will get in your way: resistance, right? Wanting to kind of do your own thing. Loss aversion, being afraid that you're going to lose what you do have instead of seeing that as an investment to step up to the next level. My tips: even if you can't work with me, at least do some of your own self-coaching, self-reflection, gain some awareness of what you took away from your childhood and how that's driving your behavior now. And I'll kind of right in line with that is tip number 2, understanding your current situation. You need to do a spending plan. You need to compare that to your actual, and you need to do a net worth statement. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. But you need to know where you are, because that's sort of the first step. Once you have that journey mapped out from where you are to where you want to be, it's much easier to make that journey with or without a guide, but you've got to do that first. All right, so Q&A. I've got a little bit of extra time, so let me kind of go in. I'm going to see if I had anything else that I wanted to cover. I think that's it. So questions. I'm going to stop sharing and just come back full screen with you guys. All right, so some of the questions that I see. The first one is, Lisa, I have a financial advisor already, and I don't really want to move my investments. How can I work with you, or can I work with you? Do not be concerned about this at all. So this is a question that I get all the time, and I'm so glad you asked, so I can talk a little bit about the difference between a coach and then an advisor or a planner. So as a mindset coach, my primary job is to help you see your own thinking and how that thinking is leading to your results. Hopefully, as we start to expose that and shift that, you'll have more money available to invest. You'll need more advice on how to manage that money. That is when you go to a financial advisor or a financial planner to get all of that information. I do not sell insurance. I do not sell investments. I do not manage investments. So if you already have a financial advisor, leave that alone. This will be a complement to what you're doing with your advisor rather than a replacement for what they do. So we're going to work on helping you earn more and spend less so you have more money to give that advisor to invest. They'll be delighted. They'll be absolutely excited when they start seeing you have more money to invest to help you invest that. So if you have a financial advisor you're working with and you're happy, don't change anything. We can just supplement that. It's not a problem at all. Another question that I wanted to cover with you guys. Oh, this is one that I get a lot. And that is, people will say to me, oh, I can't afford coaching. And on the one hand, I feel you. On the other hand, that is the exact reason you need a coach. If you don't have a little bit of room in your budget to take advantage of opportunities when they pop up, you're never going to get ahead, realistically. So you need to get with someone who can help you open up that space in your budget so that going forward, this won't happen. How many of you guys have said, oh, I wish we'd bought a house in 2009. Everything was dirt cheap. We could have gotten, this house way cheaper. We could have gotten a second house. We could have gotten our first rental property. We just couldn't do it. How many of you have said, oh my God, right? You saw that track from 2008 all the way up to today. How many of you have said, I wish I'd gotten in the market when it was low, but I didn't have any extra money. I didn't know it was going to go up like this. You've got to make a way to take advantage of opportunities. This was probably 2008, 2009. We got a letter from the mortgage company that held our second mortgage, and they said if we could pay it off, that they would forgive a portion of that loan. So we were like, yeah. We didn't have extra money laying around, but we pulled from everywhere. Like, we hustled, we worked more, we made more, we scrimped and saved, and we made that happen because we knew the opportunity to have some of our debt retired was never going to come along again. It was a great opportunity. So you have to take advantage of those opportunities when they come along, and that's part of what I'm going to teach you and help you be able to do. So if you can't afford coaching, means you need a coach, and this is a great opportunity to start figuring out how to change your life story and start being the kind of person who makes things happen. So it's probably not the answer you wanted, but if you really take that on as a challenge, I think it'll help you out. So let's see, what else? Another question. I'd really like to do this. I see the importance, but I do not have time. Okay, this is a very common one as well. And time is kind of like money. Nobody has just, like 6 hours a day laying around where they're like, what shall I do today? I don't know. Perhaps I will dine on the veranda, right? Like nobody has extra time. Nobody has extra money just laying around. It's the same thing. But you have to make yourself a priority. You have to carve out time for yourself, and more importantly, for your future self, right? You've got to take steps now, or future you is going to look like a lot like current you, and you're not going to be happy that you didn't make those changes. So another thought too is money can buy back your time. So once you get your money situation figured out, you can hire somebody to clean your house. You can hire somebody to do your yard. You can hire somebody to come in and cook your meals, or, you can get a private chef to come in if you choose to spend your money that way. So you've just got to prioritize it. I work from home and I don't have a commute, and that gives me a lot of time back. So, you figure out your money, you can start to figure out your time as well. They go exactly hand in hand. Another way to think about this as well is imagine, all right, so I'm savvy enough to know that the stork does not deliver babies. That's not why Darren and I don't have children, because we're waiting on the stork. But pretend, right? So let's pretend tomorrow the stork drops a baby on your doorstep. You don't have any extra time. So are you going to step over the baby and just go to work because you're so busy? No. You're going to be like, holy crap, there's a baby on my doorstep. I need to prioritize this, and I need to shift the other things in my life to take care of this baby. So you're going to find food for the baby. You're going to find, clean diapers for the baby. You're going to try to find the baby's mom. You're going to prioritize that over everything else, and the other things in your life have to shift. I want you to think of your financial, that's why it's called a nest egg, right? It's like your little money baby. And right now you're neglecting it. So you've got to find the time, pull it out of things that are lower priority, make this a focus, and hopefully that thinking will help you out. So next question. I heard about you through the FIRE movement. Oh, for those of you that are not familiar, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And that's another great source of inspiration if you're interested in getting a hold of your money. Google FIRE, and you'll see a whole community of people that are trying to basically become millionaires within 10 years, and a lot that have done it. But anyway, so it says, FIRE movement, almost have your first 1 million, but I want to make sure it's invested properly. Can you help us out with that? Okay, great question. So this kind of goes back to the first question. And the answer to that is no. I'm not licensed for giving investment advice. And even if there were no licensing requirements, I'm not qualified. We have our own certified financial planner that we work with. In general, right, you want to be more aggressive early in your investing career, more conservative as you get closer to retirement. But if you want somebody to look over your portfolio, that's not me. So definitely look for a certified financial. I'm going to throw a lot of jargon at you, but just write it down, and these will be things you can ask that make you sound fun, fancy when you're talking to these folks that you're interviewing. So you're looking for a fee-only certified financial planner who is a fiduciary. And usually if you're a fee-only certified financial planner, you are a fiduciary, but just ask them that. You'll sound really smart. And you want someone that will do project work. So if you're not looking for somebody, you don't want to move your investments, it's all in Vanguard or wherever and you love it. You don't want to move your investments. You don't want to work with somebody long-term. You don't want to pay somebody every quarter for the rest of your life. You're like, just look at this snapshot and tell me, am I insane or am I on the right track? That's what you want to look for, is a fee-only certified financial planner who does project-based work and is a fiduciary. They can help you out with that. Or if you're already working with an advisor or a planner, they can definitely help you. So, all right, let's see. I'm just checking my notes, see if I had anything else related to that. So let me go on to the questions. So I have been talking to another financial coach about working with them before I heard about you. They are focused on budgeting. How do I decide who to work with? Oh, this is a great question. Financial coaches, so coaching in general, for better or worse, is not regulated. So different coaches do different things in different ways. So I would say if you are deep, deep in debt, and maybe you're trying to start doing Dave Ramsey, but it's just been a train wreck. And there's a lot of budget coaches out there, and their experience is, we were deep in debt. We did Dave Ramsey. We came out the other side. Let us help you do the same thing. So I would say if you're in that box, then yes, look for somebody that has done that, and they can get you to that level. If you're like, well, I'm mostly out of debt, I did Dave Ramsey, I've just got a little bit left to sort of finish cleaning up, and I want to start figuring out what comes after Dave Ramsey. How do I sort of bridge the gap between Dave Ramsey and financial advisor, financial planner, helping the rich get richer people? That's where I come in. And one thing to kind of think about along those lines as you're making that decision is this person further along than me? So if you're super in debt and you've got a budget coach who has gotten themselves out of debt and you want to work with them, it might be more affordable than working with me. Totally fine. I'm not going to fight you over that. If you're, though, mostly out of debt, you need to work on your emergency fund, or you've done it, and you're kind of thinking long-term, how do I get to financial independence? How do I become a millionaire? Then you need somebody who has gone where you want to go. The flip side of that is also true, right? Some of you guys might be watching because you are also self-made millionaires. You are also entrepreneurs, and maybe you're multimillionaires. You know, we have some friends and some clients that we work with through the IT consulting business who are already multimillionaires, and they want to go further. So if you are in that boat, there again, I'd be glad to help you with some of the mindset stuff, but for the most part, you want to work with somebody who has gone where you want to be. So if you're looking for help on how do I sell my business, you know, I have $3 million. How do I get to $10 million? I'm full disclosure, I'm not the right person to get you there. My job is to get you to be a millionaire, and then you kind of graduate and go find somebody else, or come back in a couple of years, and if I've figured it out, I'll teach you then. But make sure you find somebody that's ahead of you on the journey, but not so far ahead of you on the journey that they've forgotten how they did what they did. All right, so I'm just checking notes to see if there's anything else. I don't see anything else on my notes. Let me check the Q&A. Okay, here's a really good one. So I am really interested in working with you. I want to get started, but I need to talk to my husband first, see what he thinks. Okay, so I'm not going to get up in your marriage. And I don't even really want to get up on your finances, despite the fact that I want to look at them and help you with them. How you manage your life and your money is your business. However, I will say, make sure as you go to people for advice that it goes back to what I just said. Get advice from somebody who is ahead of you on the path. So if you have somebody else in your life who is a millionaire, who has built a business, who can help you, then yeah, ask that person whether or not you should work with me. Better yet, get them to help you out for free. Right? Just like, what did you do? Tell me. I'm not trying to start a fight, so do what you need to do for your marriage. But, you know, if you go ask your mom, and you go ask your coworkers, and you go ask your friends, and you go ask everybody, Lord have mercy, right? Like, trust yourself, make a decision. You're an adult, you can do it. Those people, if they have not done what you're trying to do, they mean well, they're trying to help. But if they're in broke mindset too, if they're in middle class mindset too, if they've got resistance and they've got, you know, loss aversion, they're going to tell you, do what's safe, don't do anything. And that's okay. You can stay where you are. I'm not saying you have to change, but if you want to take a step up, if you want to change, you need to be with somebody who's going to challenge you. So you got to trust yourself to be able to pick those people and find the right mentor. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble with their spouse. So, all right. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. So just a reminder, if you want to get together with me, kind of tell me about your journey, where you're stuck, what your goals are, where you'd like to go, and see about whether or not my program is a fit for you, if I can help you sort of bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to go, then I'm going to share my screen again. Dun, da, 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 and let you see where that is. So it's very simple, lisaduke.net. The only tricky part is that it's .net and not .com. So lisaduke.net. Big gold button right here. Schedule that appointment. When I get to a point, it's all over my website right now, right? So I'm not going to act like this is something I just put up. But when I get to a point where I've got a full coaching load, I'm going to make that a lot harder to find. So now is the time to take advantage of that and to get on my calendar. So let me stop sharing, kind of wrap up. So if you have questions, feel free to schedule that call. We'll get together, we'll talk through it all, we'll figure out how you want to proceed, and we'll go from there. So in conclusion, thank you very much for your time. I hope that metaphor of sort of the financial operating system, the software upgrade that you need for your brain to change your life, I hope that makes sense to you. And I'd love to teach you more about how your thoughts lead to your results and how to make a change in that to get you where you want to be with your money. That's really my goal. I know how tough this is. I know how difficult it can be. So if I can kind of reach back behind me, share this information, and help you guys, our generation, those of us are in 50s, 40s, 30s, it's going to be different for us than it was for previous generations. And we've got to get financially savvier. We've got to take control of this and to learn about it, because there's basically no safety net, right? We've got to figure it out for ourselves. We truly are on our own, but there are folks like me out there to help you. So give me a call, get on my schedule, and I look forward to talking to you more in person soon. Have a good day. Bye.